The jungle had always been Rohan's domain. He knew its every whisper, every hidden trail, every warning call of the birds above. For over 2 decades, he had been a hunter, tracking, stalking, and ending the lives of the wild creatures that roamed its depths. But as he grew older, the weight of his actions had settled heavily on him. He wasn't the same man who had once relished the thrill of the chase. Now, he was just another ghost in the forest, seeking something he couldn't name. The guilt clung to him like a second skin. At night, he was haunted by nightmares, visions of glowing amber eyes staring at him from the darkness, the cries of wounded animals echoing in his ears. Sleep never came easy, and when it did, it brought no peace. It was a cold, misty evening when he first saw her. A white tigress, rare and magnificent, standing on the path ahead. Her piercing blue eyes locked onto his, but she did not snarl or retreat. Instead, she let out a sound, a low, mournful whimper. Rohan had faced many tigers in his lifetime, but none had ever looked at him like this. There was no rage, no instinctual aggression, just raw, unfiltered desperation. His hand twitched toward his rifle, but something stopped him. The tigress turned and began to walk away, pausing every few steps to look back at him, as if urging him to follow. Every fiber of his being told him this was madness. And yet, his feet moved before his mind could protest. He followed her deeper into the jungle, the mist curling around them like ghosts of the past. Minutes stretched into an eternity until the silence was broken by a faint, agonized cry, the sound of a cub in distress. Rohan's pulse quickened as they emerged into a small clearing. The sight before him turned his stomach. A young white tiger cub lay tangled in a cruel web of barbed wire, its snowy fur marred with streaks of crimson. The cub struggled weakly, its breathing ragged. The mother circled anxiously, letting out soft, helpless sounds. She could do nothing but watch her baby suffer. Rohan clenched his jaw. He had spent years taking life from creatures like these. Now, he was being asked to save one. Cautiously, he knelt beside the cub, assessing the damage. The wire had cut deep, especially around the hind leg. The more the cub had struggled, the tighter the cruel metal had bitten into its flesh. His hunter's hands, once steady in the act of killing, now trembled as he reached into his pack for his knife. The mother tigress growled low in her throat, her muscles coiling. A warning. "I'm trying to help," Rohan murmured, keeping his voice calm. "Let me do this." The tigress didn't move closer, but she didn't attack either. She simply watched, her body tense with the agony of her helplessness. As Rohan carefully sliced through the wire, a sudden movement caught his eye. A poisonous snake slithered out from beneath a nearby rock, its scales glinting in the dim light. His breath hitched. If he made the wrong move, he could end up with a venomous bite. The momentary distraction caused his hand to slip, and the cub let out a sharp cry. The mother let out a furious snarl, stepping forward, her fangs bared. Rohan froze. The snake, sensing no threat, slid away into the undergrowth. His heart pounded as he steadied himself, forcing the tension from his muscles. He had to focus. With renewed determination, he carefully cut the final strand of wire. The cub was free. The mother rushed forward, pressing her massive head against her cub, licking its wounds with urgent tenderness. Rohan exhaled sharply, his own heartbeat echoing in his ears. But the relief was short-lived. The cub was still bleeding. If the wound wasn't treated, infection would set in. Rohan knew he had to act quickly. He reached into his pack, pulling out a small vial of antiseptic powder. The mother let out a warning snarl as he approached, her tail lashing. "It's medicine," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "If I don't do this, your cub won't survive." The tigress hesitated, her instincts warring against her need to protect. Finally, as if making an impossible decision, she stepped back just slightly. Just enough. Rohan worked swiftly, his rough hands unusually gentle as he sprinkled the powder over the cub's wounds. The little one whimpered, but did not struggle. He wrapped a strip of cloth around its hind leg, securing it as best he could. It wasn't perfect, but it would hold for now. He stepped back, giving the tigress space. She wasted no time, nudging her cub until it struggled to its feet, wobbling but standing. Rohan felt something tighten in his chest as he watched them. A mother's love, something so fierce, so absolute. Even nature itself bowed before it. The tigress turned to him once more, their eyes meeting in the dim light. There was something in her gaze that sent a shiver down his spine. Understanding, acknowledgement, maybe even gratitude. And then, with one last glance, she nudged her cub forward, guiding it back into the depths of the jungle. Rohan stood frozen, listening to the fading rustle of leaves until silence reclaimed the night. For the first time in years, the jungle did not feel like a hunting ground. It felt like something sacred. As Rohan turned, ready to make his way back home, a rustling in the undergrowth made him pause. He crouched low, hand instinctively reaching for his knife. But it was not another predator lurking in the shadows. It was the mother tigress. She had returned, standing just at the edge of the clearing, watching him. This time, there was no fear between them. She stepped forward, closing the space between them until she was mere feet away. Rohan could see the weariness in her body, the battle scars that marked her life in the wild. She was not just a hunter, not just a queen of the jungle. She was a mother who had risked everything for her child. Then, something extraordinary happened. She bowed her head ever so slightly, not as a sign of submission, but of something deeper, a silent gesture of respect, of trust. Rohan felt his throat tighten. He had never expected to be granted such a moment, not after everything he had done. And yet, here he was, a man who had spent his life taking, finally giving something back. The tigress turned and vanished into the jungle once more, leaving Rohan alone with his thoughts. He stood there for a long time, the sounds of the forest wrapping around him. The weight on his shoulders did not feel as heavy anymore. Tonight, he had been something more than a hunter. Tonight, he had been forgiven. And in that forgiveness, he had found something he never knew he needed: redemption. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to subscribe for more incredible animal rescue tales. Until next time, stay kind, stay compassionate, and remember, every life matters.